You're listening to the Whole Hog Sports Podcast. And now, here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hey, welcome in. We're going to talk today with Gregg Olson. He is an SEC Network analyst, former big leaguer, Major League All-Star, 1989 American League Rookie of the Year. He's on the call this week of Arkansas and Missouri up in Columbia. Razorbacks won 5-4 last night. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to tell you, when it comes to your game day, you want the best in your lineup. That includes your eggs. Eggland's Best delivers more of the nutrition you need with 6 times more vitamin D and 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. You can score now with Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. You can visit egglandsbest.com for more information. Also brought to you by Bentonville Glass, which has been serving its community since 1971. They are committed, professional, and versatile. If you are looking for a quality leader in Northwest Arkansas or looking for skilled craftsmanship, look no further than Bentonville Glass for all your glass market needs with the highest quality products. You can come by and see them at 507 South Main in Bentonville or online at bentonvilleglass.com. Appreciate you joining us wherever you're joining us from. Maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's our Spotify channel, Apple Podcast, one of our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter. If you check and subscribe, it would help us out. We would appreciate it. Maybe leave us a review. We appreciate you being here. If this is your first time listening to our show or watching, we're daily, Monday through Friday. We'll have Bubba Carpenter in here on Monday to talk about Razorback baseball. They got the series opening win over Missouri last night when it didn't look too good for them at a certain point in the game. You know, Arkansas got the bases loaded in the top of the first inning, couldn't knock them home. Missouri hit a couple of home runs right off the bat. I mean, in the first 4 pitches thrown by Hunter Dietz, Missouri was up 3-0 with a hit batter in between the home runs. Arkansas started to kind of chip away in the 5th inning. TJ Poppy got him a solo home run. Missouri had a base running mistake that helped the Razorbacks out in the 6th. Arkansas ties it on Carter Rutenbar's hit in the 7th inning, and then they take the lead on a Zach Stewart 2-run home run, 450 feet to right center field in the 8th. It's the 5th time this month that Arkansas has taken the lead in the 8th inning of a game. Of course, you know, there's been another game or two where the 8th inning has helped Arkansas put a game away. This is a team that it's not the prettiest baseball that you're seeing, but it is effective. I mean, the end result is good for Arkansas. They've won 8 of their last 10. They put themselves in a pretty good position to be in the NCAA tournament. It felt to me like they got maybe Missouri's best punch of the weekend last night. Josh McDevitt, the starting pitcher for Missouri, was really good, had a career-high 11 strikeouts. Maybe somebody else, you know, comes along this weekend and has a big performance from them in a starting pitching role. But if you look at the numbers, it really falls off from McDevitt to their number 2 and number 3 starters. So big win. Anytime you can get a series opening win on the road, that is a big deal. Razorbacks able to do that by beating Missouri 5-4 last night. Hunter Dietz gave Arkansas another really good outing. 7 innings for Dietz. Not as many strikeouts. I think he had 8, scattered 7 hits, had a walk in there too. But he was effective, and he's been really effective for Arkansas in that Game 1 role. Razorbacks will throw Cole Gibbler tonight in Game 2, a 7 o'clock first pitch on SEC Network. A couple of other notes here real quick before we get to Gregg Olson. Arkansas now 28-15 overall, 10-9 in the SEC. Missouri falls to 20-22. They are 3-16 in the SEC, and I cannot get over this home conference losing streak for Missouri that reached 27 games last night. They have lost 27 consecutive SEC home games dating back to 2024. Razorback baseball team beat Missouri last night 5-4 in Columbia in Game 1 of the series. They'll play again tonight at 7 o'clock. The game's going to be televised on SEC Network. Gregg Olson was on the call last night. He'll be on the call again tonight, and he joins us now. Greg, appreciate you being with us. I wonder, as you kind of reflect on last night's game, what stood out?
I thought Arkansas did a nice job of staying in and, you know, being patient and you know, it was pretty tough sledding against Josh McDevitt, honestly, for Missouri. He's got a unique fastball, and it was giving the Arkansas guys fits, and they you know, once they got him out of the game, put a little pressure on the bullpen of Missouri. They were able to get 4 runs, and Hunter Dietz was phenomenal, really was. Came in with a game plan, and Missouri took that away within about 3 hitters. And he adapted, adjusted, stayed around for another 6 innings, and gave Arkansas the chance to win the game, which ultimately is all you want to do as a starter.
With Dietz, one of the things that stood out to me, and I think you even mentioned this on the broadcast, was how many strikes he was throwing toward the end of the game. I counted it. I had at one point he had thrown 32 strikes in the span of 35 pitches, and this is like as he's in the 90s in terms of pitch count. He threw 101. Like when you see a pitcher doing that so deep into a pitch count, because that's kind of when you can lose your command. I wonder what your thoughts are.
You know what? Honestly, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Really?
When you get that far into it, if you're in shape, if you're conditioned, then all you do is you have a better feel. And he came around to the fastball towards the end a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but he had such a great feel for, the cutter, the slider, the curveball, that it doesn't matter how many pitches you are deep. You're kind of knowing where you're at, and you got such a great feel for those breaking pitches that it's just kind of like an auto command. It's just okay, yeah, slider, yeah, that's locked in. Curveball, yeah, that's locked in. And you feel confident and good about everything and the way everything's coming out of your hand. And like I said, if you're conditioned, he had a lot of non-stress innings. So the 103 pitches, and honestly, the inning he got dinged up in the first inning really wasn't stress. It was, first pitch fastball, home run, hit by pitch, next guy jumps the fastball. So it wasn't like he was dealing with a bunch of guys on base. I think at one point, 7th or 8th inning, Missouri had only had 2 guys get to second base, and so it's not a high intensity 100 pitches. It was a pretty easy, and he was just, like I said, on auto command.
When you see the way he bounced back from the way it started, because that can maybe snowball a little bit on a pitcher. He was able to kind of put it out of mind pretty quick. Those 2 big swings and the hit batter, and like you said, kind of got on autopilot. When you see the way though that he was able to bounce back mentally and go deep into the game, he did. I wonder what that told you.
Oh, I've talked to him, I think once or twice, doing post game stuff, and he's got a very professional attitude. He's going, all right, they got 3 runs. You can look at the home runs however you want to look at them. You can look at them like, they're wind dated, or they ambushed me, change the game. And I felt like he did that. It was a very professional attitude, because you're the number 1 starter. You can't get knocked out in the first. You're going to wipe out your bullpen for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And so you're out there going, all right, you know what? This is what they're doing. Now I got to change my game, and I got to eat up innings. And maybe this is not my day. Maybe this gets ugly, but I'm going to be out here and I'm going to be getting outs, and I'm going to give my offense a chance at some point, is the way you need to look at it. You can't get deflated because first couple of guys hit a couple of home runs that you can debate whether they would have made it out, or they've been routine fly balls on a normal day. It's just, I'm the number 1 starter, and I got to get deep into this game. I can't kill our bullpen on game 1.
He's got that 4-pitch mix that everybody talks about, and he seems to really have good command of the off-speed stuff more often than not. In fact, I think there's a lot of games where the off-speed stuff is really his best stuff, and he's got a good fastball. I wonder, and you played pro baseball for so long. The scouts love this guy. I wonder what you think from a scouting perspective they like so much about him.
I think, the mentality, like I talked about, a very professional mentality of staying with pitches, being able to adapt. Okay, if something's not working, I'm not quitting on it. I'm going to keep working on it and figuring it out, is a professional attitude. I said it last night on the air. It's going, it's like some of us golfers, we go out there and we're cutting everything, and it's just like, well, I can't fix it, so this is what I got today, and you start playing everything down the left side. He's out there going, all right, I can't find my cutter right now, and you keep working on it and keep working on it and keep trying to find it, and ultimately you will find it. And so that's the professional attitude. I think scouts also love the fact that he's got multiple breaking balls that he can land in many different counts. And you just like the body type, that durable. I know there's been some injuries in the past, but overall, you got to like the downward angle, the high release point, down angle in this metric world that we live in of launch angles and everything else. That down angle is going to play well.
Tonight will be your third time to see Arkansas play. Obviously, last night you called a game at Alabama a couple of weeks back, game 2. You saw Cole Gibbler pitch that day. He'll pitch tonight. What are your recollections of watching him pitch, and how do you think this might go for him this evening?
Well, I was just going through my notes right now. I thought he had good stuff. I think he was nibbling a little bit too much. He was really struggling with his command that day. Was still able to get, I think about 4 innings in. I thought there was a lot to be taken away from it that was good. That this was his first collegiate start, and however many appearances you can have, it's a completely different animal going from a reliever to starter. I thought he adapted that well. And I just, he gave him a chance to win. So, see what happens tonight. I think he should get a pretty decent look and feel for what he was able to do against Missouri and their game plan, and see how he comes out and tries to kind of stick to the new game plan of going, all right, Missouri's looking to ambush us early. They know our game plan of attacking with fastballs and establishing the fastball. So, that's going to be curious to see how that plays out.
He's been a long relief guy in the past. He had a relief outing earlier this year where he went 85 pitches, I think, down at Auburn. But you talked about the difference between being a reliever and a starter. Even though the pitch number may be, or the pitch count might be about the same, what do you think the biggest differences are from one role to the other?
Maybe it's just me. But waking up that day knowing, I have a routine, I'm starting, I'm on the mound, I hate using the phrase going to battle, but ultimately that's what you feel like. And as a reliever, I don't know if I'm pitching today. I'm just going to go about my day and do my stuff and whatever, even though, I think my last college season, I was in 2/3 of the games. I didn't wake up nervous and edgy. And, but man, when I got to the minor leagues and I started for a month in Kansas City, and the only time I ever started in professional baseball, I woke up on my starting day and I was just nervous, edgy, cranky. You just knew that, at 7:00 tonight, I'm going into a fight.
If you take away what you watched against Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and you think now, having seen Arkansas play again last night, what are kind of some of the general takeaways, thoughts, observations about this year's team?
I think the pieces are there. I think they're finding ways to win. I think there is a lot more in the tank, and I'm talking about, offensively in the SEC. Kojal's not hitting. The only there's only a couple guys that are really actually doing well in the SEC. And so if those guys start, doing what they're capable of doing or doing what they've done in the past, it's going to be pretty frightening.
Why do you think maybe the offense hasn't reached its potential, like you said?
No idea. No, you don't. You got guys, you got track records. And so it's like you're playing a fantasy baseball game. You draft these guys based on what they did last year. Well, this is a new year. You don't know how it's going to come out. You assume that based on their track record, they are going to be successful. because they've done it in the past at this level. And so that's where you assume, and you just don't know. You don't know year to year. Something changes. It's not like you wake up and it's just automatically everything's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a 4-month off season in professional baseball. Well, I might come back and this leg kick feels a little bit better than the leg kick that I used to, and I don't remember how I got to the other leg kick, and so now I'm doing something a little bit different, and you don't know if somebody's doing something a little bit different. I know the video and film, you can break down whatever you want to break down, but it could be something little like that. It could be a mentality. It could be guys pitching you different. I don't know. You can't. You can ask those guys; they might have an explanation, but I can only venture guesses.
You see a lot of SEC teams during the season going around doing different games. I wonder who stood out to you the most this year.
Oh boy, you know what? I think the thing that has stood out the most to me is just how hard it is to get a win. Last night you watched Arkansas and they were completely shut down for 6 in the third.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just lockdown. And then they find a way to win the game. And, then you look at, I had Florida and Auburn last week for 3 games, and it was a coin flip every game. Florida can be really good. You guys have seen them when they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden the next week they're not really good. And you got to realize some of these guys are teenagers and some of these guys are 20, and it's just the inconsistencies. And so I think, I'd say Georgia's a great team, but they found a way to get swept, and it's just a week to week. What team's going to show up? What team's going to play well? Who's not going to give anybody any unearned runs? Who's going to pitch well? It's such an evenly matched league, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
That it's any given day, anybody can beat anybody.
You talked about Arkansas finding a way to win some of these games, like last night's game. It seems like, especially here in the last 3 or 4 weeks, probably beginning with the second game at Auburn, they've been able to scratch out some games where it didn't necessarily look real good for them, midway through the game. How important do you think that is for a team, just to kind of have that confidence that, hey, even if it's not going great, we've still got a chance if we can get it late enough into this game and it's close?
No, I think it's really important. You start learning to how important the at-bats are in the 4th and 5th inning,
mm-hmm.
where you tend to kind of drift through them a little bit. I don't know why, but I think the ability to get down early and find a way to scrap away and end up pulling it out late is something that obviously last night they're going to find useful again and again and again. They're not going to panic. They're not going to do anything stupid. They're not going to press any buttons and make unnecessary outs. They're just going to stay with the plan and the program and end up getting it close enough that they can find a way late.
Mm-hmm. I was looking through your bio, all the years that you played in Major League Baseball. I was trying to figure out if you played with any former Razorbacks. I think maybe Jeff King, you would have played with him at some point in Kansas City. Anybody else stand out?
Not that I can think of.
What do you remember about playing with Jeff King? He was pretty good here, went into the College Baseball Hall of Fame last year.
Did he go in last year?
Yeah, last year. Yeah, class of 25.
Just a great human being, really was. Really great defender.
Mm-hmm.
Solid clutch hitter in the middle of the lineup. I think I got maybe 2 months with him or 3 months with him. I don't know. I want to say 97. But really, really good player. If Arkansas history with me, I took a recruiting trip down there in '85.
Really?
Norm DeBryan was recruiting me hard, and it was just it didn't work out. I got sick on the time I was supposed to come when the team was in town, and then I came, when nobody was really there. And Coach DeBryan stayed around for as long as he could, and hosted me, but it was just an unfortunate. I didn't get the best view of Arkansas baseball. So, yeah, I actually got recruited, took a trip down to Fayetteville, and
That's amazing. It worked out for you, right? Though, I mean, you went to Auburn. You guys play with some great characters down there, and for a great coach, Sal Baird.
yeah, no, I did. I got Bo Jackson my freshman year, and then Frank Thomas was a year behind me. So played with him for 2 years. My roommate, Stacy Jones, got about 1 month in the big leagues before he blew his shoulder out. So, yeah, we had some pretty good squads.
Well, Greg, we appreciate your time, and good luck to you tonight calling the Razorbacks in Missouri. It's going to be a 7 o'clock first pitch on SEC Network. Thank you. As always, we'll have plenty of coverage from the Razorback baseball game tonight at wholehogsports.com. Softball begins today. They've got their final regular season home series against Missouri. Ironically enough, that begins at Bogle Park. The Razorbacks, certainly, we don't think this is going to be the end of the road for them at home this year. It feels like they've, at bare minimum, got a regional locked up and maybe one of those top 8 national seeds that would keep them here before the Women's College World Series if they're fortunate enough to win their regional. Track and field, they've got to meet this afternoon over at John McDonnell Field. Christina Long will be covering that for us. Of course, their spring football game tomorrow at Razorback Stadium with a 2 o'clock start time, and we'll have plenty of reporters there covering that as well. It's always busy this time of year. A busy weekend here in Fayetteville. We'll have reporters out at pretty much everywhere, and you can read all about it at wholehogsports.com. Again, whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, one of our social media channels, we ask that you'd subscribe. That way you won't miss one of our episodes. We'll be back in here on Monday with Bubba Carpenter to talk Razorbacks against Missouri. Hope to see you then. Have a great weekend.